There you go. We are live now. That's it. We are live.
Perfect. Hello.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this once again, our beautiful positive outcomes show, which is called NZ World News Positive. But this is all about real connections with real human and real talk. Today, we have got a very fantastic guest today, all the way from Australia. Getrude, who has got some great insights that we are going to uncover from her. But she is not just from Australia. I'm talking because that's one location where I think she has got some connections with New Zealand. And we will hear more about that as well from her. But let's get into it without any delay. This is all about you, real people, and listening to real life story, life journeys of their, how the challenges that they face. And every challenge is important, but how you manage is most important. And that's what our not survival, but our thriving, our growth, our expansion of human journey is all about. So today we are lucky to have this guest speaker who has achieved a lot. And I cannot express that in words, but I would like to go back to her and just more uncover from her. But before that, I also wanted to welcome. I should say welcome or what, I'm not sure, but she is my host and ghost. Because she has been my host for quite a while and we had made lots of videos. But today I'm so happy that she's back after a little break, you can call it. And I am really welcoming back for you to and just give your little insights, and then you can just introduce Gertrude and we can jump onto it. So welcome back. Over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I have had a little break and it's nice to be back and to be in conversation again. It's really nice to be able to share and I guess go down the journey of with our guest speakers together and open these conversations up and share their life journeys and how they're able to navigate through life and maybe there may be some struggles and there may be some celebrations and how we as real humans relate that to our daily life and share and be one with the community. So welcome. Thank you so much for finding some time out of your busy day to be here with us now. So super excited to learn about your life and where you've been to be able to get to where you are today and share with us a little bit more about you. So welcome. Thank you.
Thank you all for having me on today. It's an absolute honor to be with you and to connect with your audience and be able to share my story. So my full name is Getrude Rwadzano Munyaradzi Matshe. Did not want to challenge you guys with all of my but I was born on one of the most fascinating continents in the world. I am from Zimbabwe originally, born in a small village on the eastern highlands of Zimbabwe and Mozambique.
Yeah.
A village with no electricity, no running water to this day, but was gifted to two amazing parents who realized that if they educated their kids, we would get out of poverty, and we did. So my father got a scholarship when he was 29 years old to go to London through the Catholic Church, and he studied to be a chartered accountant. He took his young wife with him. They shared the same scholarship for 3 years, and my mother became a nurse. So I was left in the village with my grandmother at the age of 9 months until I was 3. And I was the poster child for World Vision, severely malnourished. My grandma did the best she could, but you can imagine what it would have been like in 1967 with 2 little girls. So my sister is 2 years older than me. My sister was just turning 3. I was 9 months old. After 3 years, my parents managed to raise enough money for me and my sister to go to the UK. So I lived in Clapham Common in London until I was 6 years old. And because they had Commonwealth scholarships, they had to go back to Rhodesia. They couldn't stay in the UK, so they had to go back. When they got back to Rhodesia, my father could not get a white-collar job because he was Black. This is before Zimbabwe had independence. So despite his UK degrees, he could only get a job in a chicken slaughtering factory, killing chickens, until after independence.
Right.
So they relied on one income, my mom's salary. And so they had to work and make extra money. My parents were very enterprising people. My mother, besides being a nurse, was a seamstress. She knew how to knit, how to sew, how to crochet. And so we were taught to hustle from the age of 6. We had to make things to sell to help raise money for our own school fees. And I actually wrote a chapter in my first book called Selling Snow to the Eskimos. Dedicated to my mom. She was the most amazing saleswoman. Charming, resilient. She would knock on doors, have doors not closed in her face, but it didn't deter her from waking up and doing what she had to do to educate her 5 kids. Fast track, in 1980, Zimbabwe got independence. My father got his first white-collar job, and he was the first Black town clerk in Zimbabwe at that time. So I come from a small town called Kwekwe, in the middle of Zimbabwe, in the Midlands region. And our lives totally changed from there. Unfortunately, when the corruption started within the Zimbabwean government, my father had to quit his job. He refused to take a bribe from one of the town councillors who wanted to get a contract to build the Black suburbs. So a lot of African people did not own their own homes. And my father had gone and given a presentation in the United Nations, and he had come up with a concept to teach people how to build their own homes. So the town I come from has got steel, it has gold, it has chrome. We had the largest steel manufacturing plant in the whole of Southern Africa at the time, called Zisco Steel. So his vision was to create what were called building brigades and teach people to use the resources in the town. So people were taught how to make the bricks to build their homes, the window frames, the door frames. So it was carpentry, steel work, brick making, and they got a $2,000 loan, which would allow them to build 2 rooms, a bathroom and a toilet. Then they could extend the home later. But thousands of families got to own their own homes because of my dad. So he refused to take the bribe, and this town councillor set some people onto him, and he was almost assassinated.
Right.
So my father had a nervous breakdown because of this experience, quit his job, and the bank was going to repossess our home. So my parents had invested in 10 acres of land. They were market gardeners. I grew up eating fruit and vegetables grown on our own piece of land. I didn't know the meaning of the word organic until I left Africa, because everything was organic. And they were totally self-sufficient, but the bank needed somebody with a paycheck. So my dad used to send me and my sister to the city from the age of 16 and encourage us to apply for jobs and not take them. So when I wrote my O-levels, my sister and I would be bused to the city to stay with a cousin. We had to get out the Sunday paper, apply for jobs, to just practice to stand in front of white people and speak. So for those of you who don't know, Rhodesia was like apartheid. Black and white people didn't mix. I remember having to walk on one side of the street and we weren't allowed to walk on the other side. I remember getting on the bus and having to sit at the back of the bus. Water fountains, you weren't allowed. So we grew up in apartheid Rhodesia. And my dad would say the corporate world is white. When you finish school, maybe you might want to get a job. You need to build the self-confidence. And that school holiday, I had 4 job offers. My first job offer was to be a pilot. I was going to fly out of Africa if it meant I flew the plane myself. So I applied and did an aptitude test and passed. They failed me on the height restriction because I was very tiny. I applied to be a nurse, an air hostess, a COBOL programmer. And my father sat me down and he said, there's this thing called a computer. He didn't even know what it was really. He said it's a cross between an adding machine and a typewriter. Technology is the future. Forget about everything else you want to do. So I became a first generation coder. I programmed computers back in the day in BASIC, Pascal, and COBOL.
Wow.
It changed the trajectory of my life to get into IT at a very early stage. I hated coding. I'm a people person. I was bored sitting behind a computer terminal writing code. And my boss realized I was really good with speaking and connecting with people. Yeah. So I was sent for more courses, and I ended up being a systems analyst and a business analyst for the rest of my IT career. I went into web design and project management as well. So I came to New Zealand 22 years ago. We had moved to South Africa to get further studies. I went back to college, got a business studies degree, majored in industrial psychology and management. My ex-husband graduated and became an obstetrician. Then we went back to Zimbabwe in 1999 at the worst time of Zimbabwe's political history. We had hyperinflation. Zimbabwe's inflation hit 516 quadrillionth percent. All of the IT companies pulled out. I couldn't get a job. My husband was working for a government hospital, making $125 a month for a family of 5. So we were barely coping.
Yeah.
So we decided to leave the country. I saw a website online advertising for African artists to go to the US. And in another life, I am a textile artist. I hand paint batik and tie-dye. So I thought, let me give that a try. So I traveled for 4 months on the Greyhound bus, all the way from New Orleans to Detroit, selling my art, selling my fabric, making clothes for people. And I raised the funds for the family to leave, but it was just enough for me and the 3 children. We were on the brink of a civil war. That is the year that Robert Mugabe started killing all the white farmers to get the land back. And anybody who had a passport was leaving. It was one of the bloodiest times of Zimbabwe's history.
Right.
So my husband put me on a flight with my 3 little kids. They were ranging from the age of 3 to 12. And I was stopped in transit in South Africa. They picked up an error that the US Embassy had made on my daughter's visa sticker. They misprinted the passport number on her visa sticker. They said, you can't proceed. You have to go back to Zimbabwe. Now, what this meant was we lost all the money on the air tickets. They were cheap APEC tickets. If you didn't fly on those dates, you lost your money. The US Embassy apologized and said, we changed the rules this week. Too many people are leaving the country. I'm back with a bank statement with $6 million before they would correct a typographic error that they made. So we lost everything. And I remember thinking, what kind of a God would put me on a flight and send me back to hell? That's what it felt like. But if I had got on that flight, I would not be speaking to you today because I missed 9/11 because of missing that flight. It was 2 weeks before 9/11. I was running workshops in a building near the Trade Center that went down with the Twin Towers. And I was only spending 2 weeks in New York. My end destination was New Orleans. I paid a deposit on a house in New Orleans that disappeared with Hurricane Katrina 2 years later. And ended up in beautiful New Zealand because I had a cousin who just one day was randomly looking at people's names on the Hotmail address book, found my name, sent me an email saying, Getrude, where are you? You've got to leave Zimbabwe. So I wrote to her and told her what had happened. She said, look, you've got computer skills. You will get a job in a heartbeat. Find the money, borrow, come to New Zealand. You will not regret it. And that's how I ended up in beautiful New Zealand 22 years ago.
There you go. That's the connection that I was talking about. I don't know how to tell you and what should I introduce you, but here is an It's not just a journey. It's like more like a roller coaster of a whole human journey. We are, we
Yeah.
are, we are hearing from you. This is fantastic, Getrude. I mean, I don't know how to describe you. You described it so much, and I don't know how human journey can be described. Should I just name another name as human journey equals Getrude? What do you think, Beck?
Oh, definitely. There is so many stories and so many like journeys within your lifetime, you know, like I don't think we are going to be able to explore your life and your adventures with half an hour today.
No, that's too less.
Yes. There's so many amazing, you know, I'm sure there was many hard times there, but the journeys that you've been on and the lessons that you've learned and I guess the skills that your parents gave you and taught you and embedded in you when you and your sister were young has really set you up to, you know, to for the character and to have the strength to be able to continue throughout these harder times.
I must say, being born in Africa prepares you to live anywhere in the world.
That's
life is tough there. You have to be creative to survive. It sharpened my eye for business opportunities. You know, when I moved to New Zealand, my kids were very little. So I got a job as a systems analyst for 1 year. When my husband came, he could not get registration with the Medical Council of New Zealand for 1 year. So he came to Australia, got a job in Queensland in Mount Isa, and he was put in a rural Aboriginal outpost in the middle of nowhere. There wasn't even a road to this place 21 years ago. They had to fly him into this village. So he thought, no, you stay in New Zealand. I'll come home once a month. And we thought it would take a few months. 1 year later, I'm alone in New Zealand with my 3 kids. And I had a full-time job and I was losing it. So I thought I will go into business. And I went back to my art. I started painting my fabric, tried to sell my fabric all over Wellington. The fabric would not sell. People would look at my materials and say, gosh, it's beautiful, but can you paint ferns or can you paint fish? I was painting zebras and giraffes and African animals. Nobody was interested.
Yes.
And then one night I had the strangest dream. I dreamt of my grandmother. She had died 10 years before this, but she came in this dream and she said to me, Getrude, if you have a problem, break it up into small pieces. At 2:00 in the morning, the dream did not make sense. When I woke up, it made perfect sense. So I cut my fabric because I normally paint large 3 meters of fabric.
Yeah.
I cut the fabric into small pieces and I started making cushions. I made 1,000 cushions, created a website, opened a shop, and started exporting these cushions to the United States, to the African American market. And it was just one of the most successful little businesses I ever started. But I didn't make money sitting in the shop for 1 year. You know, in New Zealand, unless you're selling something to the sheep, product is not an easy thing to sell.
No.
But I hit on my second business idea, which was a recruiting agency for doctors. I saw hundreds of vacancies for doctors in New Zealand, Australia, wrote back to South Africa to some of our friends. I knew how to register the doctors. So I said, would you like to come to New Zealand? 5 of our colleagues said yes. I made $125,000 in my first 3 months of business. I hit on $1 million idea. So I ran that company for 13 years while the DHBs were still paying recruiting agencies really well. And then I went into property investing. I started recruiting for film.
Oh my God.
As an African storyteller, I started stalking Peter Jackson. So he lived very close to my son's school in Wellington. And we would see him on the soccer field, you know, on a Saturday when the boys were playing soccer, and we could talk to him. And he was giving lectures all around Wellington about how they made Lord of the Rings. And I had gone back to college to do a course in TV and film production. So I studied at Avalon Studios in Wellington. And I was still a film student. And one day, the guy who designed the spider in Lord of the Rings was talking about the animation side of the film and how he had designed this spider and how they animated it. And I can tell you, it wasn't me who put my hand up. Something said, put your hand up and ask a question. I asked if I could take part in the next film they were working on. And they were working on the movie King Kong. And it just so happened they needed 350 African extras for one scene in the movie King Kong. And I saw a business opportunity and I said, I know a lot of African people. Can I present this as a business? So one of my tutors encouraged me to create a small commercial. If you give me permission to share, I'll show you a 1-minute video that I recorded and went and pitched to Peter Jackson's casting director. So I need your permission to share. Give me permission to share my screen.
Shirley, can you share the screen?
Oh, yeah.
I need your permission. So give me permission
Sure.
to share my screen.
You can share your screen.
Okay. So this is a commercial I filmed while I was in film school. And I pretended that I had a casting agency and I didn't. But I got the contract to supply all the ethnic extras for King Kong and Avatar.
Wow. Oh, this is beautiful.
Hello and welcome to Simzisani Creations. Simzisani is a culturally unique talent agency focusing primarily on Black African faces and personalities for the film and advertising industry. Formed in Cape Town, South Africa in 1994, Simzisani is now an international operator and is based in Wellington, New Zealand. We offer a wide range of talent, including actors, models, dancers and musicians of African origin, as well as from a diverse range of ethnicities. We can cater for all your on-screen talent needs. You can contact us through our website, www.simzisanicreations.com. We hope to be hearing from you soon.
So that's what I presented to Peter Jackson and his casting director.
Yeah.
And because I was sitting on the Wellington City Council's Ethnic Forum, I was part of helping the refugee service. I was a volunteer, helping other African immigrants to learn English and to find work.
Yeah.
I knew a lot of brown people. I ended up recruiting Maori people, Indian people. They had to spray paint us one color so we looked like a tribe. It was the most
amazing
thing I ever did. And I got to act in both Avatar and King Kong. So I had the largest database for ethnic minority people for film and advertising for quite a few years in New Zealand.
Beautiful. This is
Wow.
amazing.
It's so amazing. And there's the opportunities, like what's coming through for me is there is opportunities everywhere we look to create a better life for ourselves and to grow in who we are and to share. The more that we share, the more opportunities that come up and they're open doors for our future. It's been amazing.
This part of the world is unique in that sense. If you have the courage to try something, you can succeed.
Yeah.
But I guess to all the listeners who are listening and watching this beautiful clip that you showed, and what a journey, Getrude. I mean, I can only say one thing that, which I always say in my spiritual way of thinking and ideologies that we come with, is never identify yourself or never label yourself, because you are full of so many things. I cannot tell that Getrude is a filmmaker, Getrude is a designer, Getrude is an artist, or Getrude is an IT expert, or all the things. I just don't know what to say, but I can only say what a human you are who has touched. And I think it's a privilege to even hear that you could have done it. We have done it. Like there are many people who think of doing it and they have fear of not doing it. But here you are, you have done it. So to all the listeners, you can be what Getrude is today, become everything that you want to, whatever you want to at whatever stage. That's probably what I learned from here.
Yeah, I think the message that's coming through for me is that, like, don't let your surroundings restrict you. So, like where you're born and the village that you've come from, like, don't let them be the limiting beliefs for you. Like, look within and look within yourself to journey and to travel the next phase of your life, because Gertrude, you have not lived one life. There has been
I know.
a short period. There has been many lives lived here, and it's amazing to see, to be able to hear a little snippet of that life that you've journeyed on to be where you are, and now in Melbourne. So this is a whole nother phase of your life where you are in Melbourne now. You've left New Zealand.
Yeah, my biggest fear in life is not the fear of failure. A lot of people hold back because they're scared to fail. My biggest fear is to fear the regret of not having tried.
That's so
I've done a lot of things in my life that have not succeeded, but I take them as stepping stones to my success. If I fail, been there, done there, got the damn t-shirt, I won't do it like that again. But Melbourne is my next journey. So I came to Melbourne last year. Just after the lockdowns happened. First of all, what happened when COVID occurred is I went through a very traumatic separation that led to divorce in 2014. It rendered me extremely ill, the depression, the sadness. I ended up collapsing with congestive heart failure while on holiday in Bali, Indonesia, and almost died in 2017. Wow. And in my recovery, I decided to create a women's speaking platform called Her Story. I knew I would bounce back. Bouncing back is what I do best. But I thought there must be other women age 50, widowed, separated, divorced, who find themselves having lost everything through these experiences. I lost a 4.5 million property investing business. I was almost homeless, living in my car. And I thought I want to share my story as a way to uplift, inspire another woman who might be going through a similar challenge. I wanted to transmute my pain into gold. And I put a post that went viral on Facebook. And I said, I'm looking for 100 women who would want to be on this journey with me. It's going to be a social impact movement where we come and inspire, we motivate, we empower other women through the sharing of stories.
Yeah, lovely.
In 48 hours, 2,500 women responded in 15 countries.
Wow.
So I launched the Her Story Circle in Las Vegas in July 2019. I had my second event in Wellington. So it was 100 speakers and they each had to bring 10 friends. Second event was in Wellington, New Zealand. Third was in Sydney, Australia. And then the New Zealand government was giving away a grant called the CAP grant, which was inspiring conference organizers to bring people to New Zealand for conferences. They know that people won't come this far for nothing for a 2-day conference. People stay, they'll see the country, they'll stay on a week or 2 weeks. So I got a grant that paid for my social media, my marketing. It paid for me to travel to other countries to recruit speakers who would come to New Zealand in 2020. So beginning of 2020, I went to Norway, I went to Sweden, I went to London, New York. COVID happened in March while I was in New York. And I had 15 events that were canceled for the first quarter of 2020 because of COVID. I had paid for venues, I had paid for food. It was just for North America and Canada. And I was in a financial black hole because of COVID. Then I had some personal tragedies that happened. My father had just died 9 months before in Zimbabwe. My father died of a sudden heart attack. My mother died on the 29th of March in Zim. I couldn't even go back to Zimbabwe to bury my mom during COVID. I still haven't gone back. Wow. But those experiences knocked me back emotionally, physically. Then my daughter had a miscarriage as well, my first grandchild. My mother's funeral was the saddest day of my life. I have never felt so depressed before.
Mm.
I woke up that morning wanting something in the world to change.
Mm.
You know, in Zimbabwe, your duty as a daughter for your mother
Mm.
is to prepare her body for burial.
Mm.
You wash her, you dress her.
Yeah.
And I didn't get to do that for my mom. And I remember waking up that morning wanting something to change, and the world just continued like nothing had happened.
Mm.
Then I remembered a ritual in Zimbabwe when I was growing up. I used to see people shaving off all their hair, show that they're in mourning.
Morning, yeah.
Because when you are depressed to that level, the only thing you can change is something on you. And I woke up that morning, I took a shaver to my hair. So this is an extension. I shaved off all my hair. I have a sister in Sydney. I have a brother in Canada. One brother was in Zimbabwe burying our mother alone. So my brother said, look, I will Zoom you all in. You can watch the funeral online. And when I got online, my sister took one look at me and started laughing hysterically.
Mm.
I'm like, Patricia, why are you laughing? It's Mom's funeral today. She said to me, Getrude, have you looked in the mirror? I'm like, what are you going on about?
Mm.
She said, you look so much like Mom. It's scary. And I was a duplicate copy of my mom. People used to think we were sisters. She had me when she was 18. She was very youthful looking. Fast track, 6 months later, I'm still extremely depressed. My business has collapsed. I don't know how to get back up. I woke up in a dream one morning in November 2020. And in this dream, I was brushing my teeth in the morning. I spat into the sink and I looked up into the mirror, and the person looking back at me wasn't me. It was my mother. Mm. And she was healthy and vibrant and laughing the same way my sister had laughed on the day of her funeral. And she said to me, do you see, baby? Do you see what I did? I'm like, Mom, where are you? What are you talking about? She said, I made you look like me so that you'll remember I haven't gone anywhere. I am in you. I am with you. But you need to get up and finish your work. She said, so long as you're 6 feet above the ground, your job is not done. Mm. And I was able to snap out of that state of depression. I put my platform online and started having online conferences. We scaled in 18 months to 50,000 women in 25 countries. And it's been such an incredible ride. So as a social impact movement, we curate all of these stories into a series of books. All the women who participate pay to come and speak on our platform. They get published in an anthology with 9 other women. They get published in the Her Story magazine. They get exposure through our podcast. They also get to run workshops and master classes. So there's a transfer of knowledge from woman to woman. And the money that I raise for social impact goes back to Africa. I've been seeding projects here in Southeast Asia, the Caribbean, and I help women get out of poverty with very small amounts of money.
Absolutely.
Like I could buy some beads and give a group of women $5,000 worth of beads, show them my designs. They can string up the beads that I sell for them in New Zealand, Australia through my website. And it's just been incredible, absolutely incredible. And then I saw a competition. So when I came to Melbourne, I was coming to be with my daughter. She got pregnant straight away. Baby was due in July last year, so I came in June. But the day that I landed, the second lockdown in Melbourne happened, and I was stuck in Melbourne for 8 months. I couldn't go back to New Zealand. And my little grandson came to mend his grandmother's broken heart. He is the most incredible little human being. There is no way I can go back to New Zealand and not get to see him every day. So Melbourne is now home. I saw a competition, the New Zealand Australia Women in Technology Awards on LinkedIn last year. And I pitched an idea for a tech startup. I have designed a technology platform that coaches women to speak that pays women in third world countries using their cell phones, using cell phone technology.
Mhm.
So I registered my first tech startup in Melbourne. I won the first prize for this competition last year.
Wow.
And I'm now building my first technology company from Melbourne.
Wow.
So it's been an incredible ride, full of challenges, but I do believe the universe doesn't give you challenges that you can't overcome, that we are challenged so we can become teachers, we can inspire somebody who might be going through a similar challenge. And that's what the Her Story platform is all about.
Wow.
That's
This
so
is-
beautiful.
I
So
mean,
inspiring to see that that you just, after every, it's not a setback, but like you said, it's a challenge, and it's another sign to show you that the work is not done. And and not just yourself, but we're all here to do some sort of work and to share our stories and to use our voice and to continue our our lessons on through the next person that we're able to share with.
What I'm aimed at now is to leave this planet a better place than I found it, for my grandson, for my grandchildren, for my kids. I do believe that a lot of people make a chunk of change and they bequeath their will to something. I want to be a living legacy. I want to see the results of my work. So all of our members bring a social impact project that they support in their own community. And we collectively collaborate, we support each other, we share ideas, we share resources. And it's just been incredible, the projects that have been initiated in the last 2 years because of this movement.
Fantastic. I don't have words to say, Beck. And
I know.
You said absolutely right. I felt exactly what you said. So you stole my words, I could say. No, I stole your words. No, I think the words that you said was absolutely resonating with me when you said inspiring. You are an inspirational living legacy. And I can only sum it up in this manner, that when I hear you, I don't want to stop doing anything. That's the inspiration. No matter what situation you are in, you have been through so many situations, locations, and destinations, but your mind is the most powerful that you have managed and went through all these journeys. I mean, personal tragedies, personal, whatever you call it, like, congratulating yourself or saddening yourself. It's not that. It's more important is how you have, made everything possible. No matter, as you said, I love that words, that it doesn't matter whether it's going to achieve or not. I'm not here to do that. But if regret is the most important thing for you, and same thing I say, that regret and misery is the two things that you don't want at the end of your any journey to just think about it, about regrets. You just have to try every damn thing on this universe that you have been here. So yeah, you are definitely a living inspiration.
This world is beautiful. My grandmother used to say that when a baby is born, we're born with our fists clutched. We come into the world holding onto our gifts. And there are people who go to their graves like this, too scared to try, too scared to unleash those gifts to the world. They say that the richest places in the world are graveyards because they're full of people who had amazing stories, amazing ideas, and they didn't have the courage to give it a try. So I want to exit this world having squeezed out all the juice the Creator put in me. I want to be bone dry by the time I exit this skin and this life, and just inspire as many people to live their lives to the full. I have a lot of energy. My mother used to say I was ADHD. I just wasn't medicated. So I use the energy that is in me just to keep on going.
Well, that's a very interesting comment you made, because we can call ourselves whatever we want to, whether we are bipolar, ADHD, OCD, all those kind of things we can call ourselves. But at the end of the day, we still contribute in some or the other way.
Definitely. Yeah.
So true. Very, very true.
And this is something amazing. I didn't had a conversation like this before with a person of such a colorful. I don't know how to define it. Beck, what do you think?
Well, that's exactly what you had, how you were explaining Gertrude to me. It's just like, she is just a ray of color.
Exactly.
And they were the exact words. And when I came, before even meeting you and introducing you, I was like, there is color.
Yeah.
And there is so much color within you, and it radiates out of you in your storytelling, in your life experiences, and you as a person. And I am so honored to have been here today to be able to like just to be witness to your life story and where you're going and your motivations and who you are, and I guess the legacy that you are wanting to leave behind you. And it's not just for yourself or for your children and in your grandchildren. It's for everybody who wants to listen. And I really appreciate you sharing that with both of us today and all of our listeners. I have the biggest smile on my face and in my heart to be in your presence, and the motivation that you have, that you give out, that I have received from you today is just amazing. There are no words.
Absolutely. You very well said that. To all the listeners who are listening, I think everybody can take away something of these colors. And because we all are colorful, but you got to recognize your own colors. And what Getrude has done is absolutely went on exploring her different styles and her different patterns of colors. And I think she has excelled in everywhere and everything that she has done so far. So to all the listeners who are listening, I mean, please feel free to understand and resonate. You may, and if you don't, try to think a little deeper that what you have done and what you can do. And I think I want to ask you, I'm very curious about it, even though I know you don't have much time today, but I would like to ask this question about you, that in this journey, after looking at yourself, I mean, there is no comparison with everyone or anyone. It's what you live, it's what you make out of it, and it's what you have been given by the universe to make out of it. But choosing every time, sacrificing every time or giving every time is a big challenge. Like, what do you sacrifice? What do you give? What do you receive? And what do you not? It's a big challenge for every human. I really want to ask this. Maybe it's a difficult question for me to ask, but I think it will be easy for you to answer. So how did you really, really lived with this environment that you were brought in? It's sometimes people say it's the environment that makes you. Sometimes people say the education that makes you. Who made you?
I come from a continent where giving is like second nature. We have such limited resources. I remember my grandmother would give away the last morsel of food she had cooked for us. If somebody walked past our hut carrying suitcases, traveling, she would call them into the house and give them the food she had cooked for us for the day. And we're like, but Grandma, we're hungry. Those people need the food. They're traveling. They're going a distance. We will eat tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we would sleep on cornmeal and salt water. My grandmother would give you the last morsel she had. So I grew up in a community where the Ubuntu philosophy is practiced. And I'd love just to share what Ubuntu really is. The literal translation of Ubuntu, Ngamuntu, Ngabantu is a person is only a person through other people. It's our way of expressing the condition of being human.
Wow.
Literally translated, it means I am because you are. So I cannot be human unless you are human, acknowledging my humanity and vice versa. In Indian culture, people say namaste.
Yeah.
Same thing. And it's not
same thing. Yeah.
Even when we greet, we say sawona, which means I see you. And it's not the seeing of sight, but my acknowledging your humanity and my humanity.
Yeah.
And we believe that if one person in the village is not okay, we're all not okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we are cells of the same organism. Humanity is one. There is no separation between us. But somewhere in the evolution of the human race, we are living in a sense of not enoughness, and you and me and not we. So that we philosophy is my message. I talk about Ubuntu. I illustrate that I am a sum total of every human being who's ever come into my life, the mentors I've had, the kindness I've experienced, the people I've met. But giving is like a drug. There is something that happens to your soul when you help another human being.
Absolutely, yeah.
My grandmother used to say that the universe is like a giant bank, and you have to keep depositing good deeds. And it comes back to you tenfold, not from the person you serve, but in the most unexpected ways, and these synchronistic little magical happenings, to bump into Peter Jackson on a soccer field and end up acting in King Kong and Avatar. I mean, it doesn't just happen to people. But I have put enough into the database of the universe, it comes back to me, and I meet the right people, I get the right connections, I get the right inspiration, because I'm constantly giving, and it fills my soul to be able to help another human being. So giving is like a drug. It's a powerful, powerful way to be. And I want to wake people up to the power of giving. Because if we each do a little something, and it doesn't have to be money, it can be a greeting to somebody you're standing next to a bank queue, or a smile to a stranger in a supermarket.
Absolutely. And I think very well said that, because when you talked about humanity, that's one of my closest topic as well. We always talk, and Beck and I always dwell on that. It's amazing to understand what humanity to you and me, but at the end of the day, the goal of humanity is humans and humanness. And that's something that I would love one day to explore with you. This topic is going to be interesting. But I also hear you, what you said before, that, and I can sum it up for you little, that you never labeled yourself. That's what I would say, because when you start labeling and identifying, then you can't achieve what you have achieved, what you can achieve, basically. So that's one of the powerful message that I take from your conversation today, that, no need to label yourself. Then you can achieve whatever you want, and you can be whatever you want. That's the beauty of it.
That is so true.
If I put myself that I'm a business or accountant or tax or lawyer and anything, that's my label. But that's not who I am, basically. Because I can still do other things, and I can still be, don't need to call myself that. Because first and foremost, I'm a human before the labels. And as you rightly said, as evolution happened sometime along the line, humans forgot that they were humans, and they started keeping this tag to themselves. They started giving these titles to themselves rather than just recognizing that they are human. So very well said that, Getrude. I really appreciate this conversation. Is beautiful. Cannot expected my today's evening has been the most amazing evening that you had with you. And I'm so happy today, because Beck, my co-host, also has what a day to come on a journey where such a beautiful soul as a speaker today we have.
Oh, so honored to be able to meet you, and to be witness to your story, and to hear just a little snippet of it. It's your energy and your vibe has just given me so much motivation to continue on my journey, and has given me the courage to, and literally, as you were saying that, I've just written down no labels, and to shed and to put them aside. But honestly, like I'm walking away from our conversation on borrowed courage until it's my own, to be able to just continue and put the labels aside, and to know that whatever comes through, that it's possible for me to succeed in what is next, and where my journey and path goes, and I don't have to settle with where I'm at, and the life, with what I've done to this point. So I really appreciate you sharing your story with me and with both of us today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Yeah, I want to end this with one quote or one saying of my own, I would say, that just came to my mind that, no matter where you come from, what location you come from, your destination is what you can decide. You don't need to depend on destinations to be told to you, because destination is in your choice. And what I have seen, that you have covered so much destinations, Getrude, that it is absolutely my privilege and a great honor. As Beck said, it's also my honor to interview you, or to even have a conversation of a soul that has got so much of wealth of experience and wisdom that you have shared today. I'm sure all the listeners who are listening today have definitely taken some leaf out of this conversation and would make something out of it, that, there is no end and there is no start, but in between there is a lot that you can and you can't, do it, basically. So I leave that with this thought. And I would like to go back to give a final message to all the audiences that are listening to. What will be your final message? I'm just have got no words. So
Well, I'd like to say, just remember you have one life.
That's right.
And we are living on borrowed time. And nobody is checking out of this life alive. So make the most of it. Make the most of it. And I would like to invite your listeners to go onto my website, herstorycircle.net. Please register to speak. We're having a large International Women's Day event from the 1st to the 31st of March. We're looking for speakers. Good. If you live in Washington, D.C., we have an in-person conference from the 8th to the 12th of March. I'll be in the U.S. So please go onto my website, herstorycircle.net, and register to speak and be a part of this movement.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Yes, as you heard, everyone, we bring real connections, but here it is, Getrude brings her story. And what more we can expect in this human journey to support each other, to collaborate with each other. And this is amazing that what you are doing. You have already done so much and you still keep going. That's one of the best inspiration and motivation I take it from here. And that's my final message to all the audiences. Please go to her website. Please look at her story. To all the women, but also to all the speakers. They could be men, women, I guess. And yes, it's not a restriction. International Women's Day is something that I'm also very much, last year we did, as Beck knows, we did one called Bounce Forums, and I would love to continue this year as well. And maybe we can have a guest speaker once again. I'll get Getrude as a speaker because she's amazing.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure there is a lot more that has to share and to offer for all of our listeners. So yes.
So yeah, final word.
I have to see if she's available.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I leave up to you to close this conversation. Over to you. Final. Close this conversation to you.
Sorry, I cut you off there. I missed what you're saying. Yes, I to close, I just, again, there are no words, and I'm so grateful that we've been able to have some of your time this afternoon. And I'm sure, like, I know myself, I'm going to go and follow and stay connected, and all of the listeners, please reach out. There is definitely a lot more that we can learn and to be a part of here. So again, thank you, and I hope everyone has enjoyed this conversation just as much as I have. And we look forward to following your journey and to see where your future businesses go. So thank you again.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, thank you so much. We'll come back once again. All the listeners and non-listeners, thank you very much for this whole conversation that today we had. We'll come back to you once again with another story. It's her story, but we will have our story.
You guys.